The Biological Mandate, a reworked first principles synthesis of neurobiology and genetics. The synthesis of these foundational texts in neurobiology and genetics, from Dawkins's The Selfish Gene to Doidge's The Brain That Changes Itself, reveals three fundamental non-negotiable laws that govern the human biological system. These principles describe the relationship between the molecular code, the adaptable brain, and the resulting behavior. First principle: the self is a dynamic, plastic, and evolving code. The human organism is not a fixed, deterministic machine, but a dynamic, continuous negotiation between the genetic program and environmental forces. Both the genome and the brain are systems defined by their capacity for continuous change, or plasticity. The irreducible nature of neuroplasticity, the rewiring mandate, the works in neurobiology, particularly Norman Doidge's The Brain That Changes Itself and the case studies presented by Oliver Sacks, refute the idea that the adult brain is hardwired. The foundational truth is that the brain's physical structure and functional organization can reorganize itself in response to experience, injury, or mental practice. Learning as physical change. Psychological change is literally physical change. The brain uses neuroplasticity to form new neural connections, allowing for recovery from damage, skill acquisition, and adaptive behavior. The brain's narrative function. David Eagleman's Incognito highlights that while the brain is plastic, much of its activity is non-conscious. The conscious mind often serves as a narrator, constructing stories to justify decisions already made by subcortical, unconscious neural networks. The code as potential, not destiny. The genetic texts, particularly the history presented in Siddhartha, Mukherjee's The Gene, confirm that the molecular code provides the potential but the outcome is flexible. Genotype is possibility. The gene is the unit of inheritance, and as argued by Richard Dawkins in The Selfish Gene, the primary mandate of all biological structure is the replication of this genetic information. The organism itself is the survival machine. Epigenetic modulation. Modern genetics, especially the study of epigenetics, reveals that environmental factors, stress, diet, experience, can dramatically influence whether certain genes are expressed, turned on or off, without changing the underlying DNA sequence. This mechanism links the plastic environment to the plastic brain. Second principle: behavior is the multi-level expression of biological debt. Behavior is not a singular, simple decision, but an instantaneous product of stratified biological and historical influences. The actions we take now are indebted to causal forces operating from the molecular to the millennia-long Doidge. The irreducible hierarchy of causation, Robert M. Sapolsky's Behave, provides the most comprehensive framework, demonstrating that any given behavior is the convergence of factors across various timescales, from the instant to the ultimate. Instantaneous neurochemistry. The second before an action is dictated by the immediate concentration of neurotransmitters, like dopamine and serotonin, proximal hormonal state. The hours leading up to an event are modulated by stress hormones, like cortisol, and reproductive hormones, which tune the brain's reactivity. Ultimate evolutionary mandate. The capacity for the behavior itself, e.g., aggression or cooperation, is a result of evolutionary pressures that favored genes enhancing survival in the past. The principle is, no single explanation suffices. A complete analysis of behavior requires integrating chemistry, development, and evolutionary history. The chemical driver and environmental mismatch. The dopamine trap. Anna Lemke's Dopamine Nation shows how the brain's ancient dopamine-driven reward system, optimized for scarcity, is easily overwhelmed by the modern environment of abundance and instant gratification. This mismatch drives cycles of addiction and chronic dissatisfaction, as the system constantly seeks novelty while raising the baseline for pleasure. Biological vulnerability. The immune system, as explained in Philip Detmer's Immune, is another core adaptive system. Its health, like that of the brain, is fundamentally tied to hormonal and neurochemical status, revealing that stress and psychological states have a direct, measurable biological effect on systemic resilience. Third principle, biological knowledge imposes an irreducible ethical debt. The scientific power revealed by mapping the genome and the brain mandates a profound ethical and social responsibility for its application. Knowledge of the code and the mind cannot be separated from its human context. A. The imperative of ethical and social context. The cost of discovery. Rebecca Skloot's The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks serves as the moral compass for the field. The use of HeLa cells, which were fundamental to countless biological breakthroughs, was done without the subject's consent, highlighting that scientific progress often carries an unacknowledged historical and human cost rooted in issues of race and class. The CRISPR conundrum. Walter Isaacson's The Codebreaker brings this issue to the future. The ability to precisely edit the gene line via CRISPR creates unparalleled power to eliminate disease, but also raises the immense specter of genetic inequality and eugenics. The principle. As biological control increases, ethical and societal responsibility must increase exponentially. B. The mandate for human flourishing. The final synthesized principle is that the ultimate goal of decoding the gene and mapping the brain is to enhance human flourishing by responsibly leveraging this knowledge. Neuroplasticity and behavioral genetics provide the scientific tools. The ethical narratives provide the moral framework. This requires a commitment to using biological knowledge to adapt the human system to its modern challenges, addressing addiction, inequality, and disease, while ensuring justice and equitable access to biological advances.